Hello and welcome to this week's Photoshop Friday. And in today's tutorial, we're going to be learning about how to make those wrappers that go around our Play-Doh and also the printables that go on the lid. And I'll be using a template in this tutorial, and also I'll be showing you how you can make a Play-Doh mock-up, or how to use my Play-Doh mock-up. Now, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to be showing you how to use the template that is included. So all you need to do is make sure that you have already opened up your Photoshop, okay? And those of you that are new to Photoshop, please feel free to check out all those tutorials on getting started with Photoshop, and then come back to this video. It will make a lot more sense. Okay, so once you have your Photoshop up and ready, we're going to double click onto our wrappers template. Alright, now your template might look a little bit different to mine, or not your template, sorry, but your Photoshop layout might look a little bit different to mine, and that's okay. You will pretty much find majority of the items that we'll be using, or the tools that we'll be using, in the left hand side toolbar over here, or in your Windows panel on the side. And if you find that you don't have any of the ones that I'll be using, all you need to do is just go to Windows and tick whichever one you need. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is to actually bring in the clip art that I'm going to be using. Okay, so here is the clip art that I'll be using. It's a theme called Enchantables, and I am just going to find the one that I wanted to use. Okay, so this is the one here that I use. So I'm just going to click and drag that and release it into my template. Okay, so once you've dragged it in, all I'm going to do is hit the shift key, and I'm just going to slightly drag it up just a little bit so that it touches kind of the top part, and there it is there. And then I'm just going to hit enter. You can either hit enter or there's a tick button. Okay, but make sure you hit that that shift key, because that way it at least keeps the proportion of your item. So what you will notice is that on the right hand side over here in your Windows bar or your Windows panel is the clip art. Okay, so I'm just going to double click onto that, and I'm just going to type in clip art. Okay, in fact I might actually change that to the woodland character. Okay, because I'll be bringing in a little bit more clip art after that. Now there's some other clip arts that I'm wanting to add to this, just so that it doesn't look so bare. And I'm just going to find my woodlanders. Here it is here. Okay, and I want to bring in this one here. So let's bring you in. Click and drag and drop and hit enter, because I will position it in a minute. Let's click you and drag you in and hit enter. So you're hitting enter to place your clip art onto the template. Okay, and then let's click onto this one and hit enter. Okay, so I'm just going to move you and you to the side, and I'm just going to work with, so now you can either just move them to the side, or you can switch them off by using these little eyeballs over here in your Windows panel. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto this flower, and I'm just going to rename that to flowers, and then I'm just going to click onto that. By clicking onto your clip art on the right hand side in the Windows panel, you will see that it actually changes, and it actually highlights that particular layer. So if you click onto that, there it is there, and I'm going to change that to mushroom. And then this one here, I'm just going to write there tree, the tree stump. Okay, so I'm just going to switch those two off, because I'm not going to work with those ones just yet, but I'm going to work with this one. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control or Command on a Mac, Control T, all right, or you can go to Edit and Transform, all right, and that way you can do the same thing, but I like to use my keyboard shortcut, and that is Control T. And in the resources section, make sure that you download those keyboard shortcuts, because they will definitely be helpful for you, and even print them out and keep them with you, because you'll find that they will be very helpful. All right, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this and I'm going to make it smaller. So by doing that, I'm just going to hit the shift key and I'm just going to bring that down, and there it is there. Okay, so let's just make it slightly bit bigger, about there. Okay, and I'm just going to bring it down by just dragging it. Just hit enter to place it, and there it is. Okay, but now what you will notice is that it's actually in front of our clip art, and I don't want that. So what do we need to do? We need to take that tree stump layer and let's place it underneath. And now it is behind my clip art. Okay, and you need to remember in the Windows panel, whatever is on the very top layer is the one that's always in front. Okay, so just remember that. So now one thing I want to also do is make sure that my clip art is in the center of my template. So let's go here and you will see that there's some lines that are appearing. Okay, so I'm just going to keep dragging until it kind of, there we go. See how it's got those lines horizontally and vertically? That way you know that that image is now fully in the center of my template. Okay, let's bring in our mushroom. There it is there. Now, all I'm going to do is hit Control T and I'm going to bring you down and maybe a little bit further down, and I'm going to position you about, say, there. You can also use your arrow keys on your keypad and hit enter, and I might bring her also behind. Let's just bring you further up to about there. Okay, and then now let's bring in our flowers, which is then, let's hit Control T, oopsie, go back to the flowers, hit Control T or Command T for Tango, hold the Shift key and drag the flowers down. All right, hit enter, and I'm just going to pop these little flowers, say about there. All right, so just something cute and fun, mixing it all together. Now I'm wanting to, of course, have a background. Now to have the background, all I'm going to do is go over here to my Windows panel and I'm going to click onto new layers. It's almost like a little notepad type of, like a sticky notepad icon. All right, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag that right to the very bottom. That way it's going to be at the very back. Okay. All I'm going to do then is go over here and you will probably find that this symbol here in your toolbar is what's going to appear, and if it's not, all you need to do is go right click and click onto it. So we're going to be using what's called the rectangle tool shape. All right, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Let's just hit the move tool, select tool, and I'm just going to bring that. Now it is completely covered my whole template, which is what you want. All right, but I am not really happy with that color. So what do we need to do? So make sure that your rectangle shape is selected and go over here in the tools bar and click onto that shape button again. And you'll notice that these have all popped up, which is all the settings to do with that particular icon. And all I'm going to do is to click onto that and click over here. And now I have, you'll notice that my mouse will change to a, like almost like a target arrow, and what it's going to do is it's targeting what color you want to select, and all I'm going to do is change the color of that. Now let's go with maybe something like that color there, or even maybe her hair color. Let's go with that color there. All right, and then all we're going to do is hit OK. All right, so there is our image. Now I am wanting to place a border behind it too, like another little another little rectangle shape. So all I'm going to do is hit the new layers tool again. There it is there. Make sure that my my toolbar setting is this rectangle shape, and all I'm going to do is click and drag to make another shape. All right. And once again, it's of course bringing up the settings of my previous item that I had. I'll just move that out the way. All right, and there it is there. Okay, now I'm wanting to change the colors, so let's go back onto that. Make sure that that rectangle shape is there. All right, and let's click here. Now, Ideally, I would hit that button there because I don't want the border around the pink. But in this case, I actually do. So I'm wanting to change it to white. Okay, and there it is there. Okay, and I'm actually quite liking that pink color anyhow. So I'm going to keep that pink color. But if you're wanting to change that pink color, all you would need to do, of course, is click over here, select your color, or go over here and find the color that you are wanting to use. So you can almost use like this pink color here. But that might look a little bit too much for me. So I'm just going to go over here to my history panel. And if you don't have the history thing, or you hit the history icon, all you need to do is go over here, and then you would just hit history, and that will bring it up here. Okay, so click onto that, and I'm just going to go to the previous layer, or the previous setting that we had on it. Okay, and then just minimize that. Now, so instead of sitting there trying to figure out where the middle is, all we're going to do is make sure that you've selected that layer, which is this one here. And all I'm going to do is click onto the marquee tool, and I'm just going to go from up to bottom because I'm wanting to make sure that it is in the right, that it's exactly in the middle from top to bottom. All right, and then I'm just going to hit the move tool or select tool, and I'm going to click onto this button here, which is your align vertical tool, and you'll notice how that just popped it into place. All right, and then I'm going to hit Control Command D to delete that marching ants, and there it is. Okay, so there is my design. Now, what I want to do is I'm just going to click onto my flowers, and there it is there. And all I'm going to do is click, and I'm going to click it on top of the notepad tool and hit that, and you'll notice that it's now duplicated it. Now, a keyboard shortcode that you can use to duplicate any layer is Control J for Jenny. Okay, and there it is there. So I'm just going to click, and it's actually sitting on top of that layer, and I'm just going to move it to the side, and there it is there. So I'm just going to make that a bit bigger, about there, and hit enter. And then I'm just going to maybe make it just a little bit further away from my design, about say there. And I'm just wanting to add a nice drop shadow on that, so it kind of stands out a little bit more. Okay, and I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to make that. Now it looks a bit funny, I know, bear with me. And I'm just going to change the angle to make it appear like it's coming from the side. The opacity, I'm going to shrink that right back down to about there. And my distance, I'm going to bring that back in. Okay, so it kind of looks almost like it's popping out of the design. All right, and then you can have the spread, you can change all sort of things. You can change the size, the distance, but I'm just going to make that about there and hit OK. Now that I have got all my settings prepared for that, that's where I'm just going to duplicate it. So I'm just going to duplicate that, and I'm just going to move it up, but I'm actually going to change the I'm just going to rotate that slightly. So all I hit was Control T for Tango. So you want to transform it. And you'll notice that my cursor has now changed to those double arrows. And there it is there, and hit enter. Okay, so by placing your cursor in the corners, it will change the cursor to those double arrows. All right, and then let's just move you. In fact, I'm not liking that. Let's just make it go like about there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is click back onto this first one, and I'm going to duplicate that, and what I'm going to do is hold my shift key and drag that right across, and you'll notice how it has stayed in the same line as the one that I've just duplicated. And you'll notice that those little pink boxes appeared that shows 500 between the two. That just tells you that that's exactly in the middle, or exactly the same distance as it was from left to right. Okay, and then you just hit enter. Not hit enter, you just let go of your mouse. And then the same thing as this one here. I'm going to click onto that, and now I'm going to duplicate that one, grab it, click onto it, hit the shift key, and drag that all the way until it kind of pops in line, which will be about, oh, I just missed it, there it is there. There it is. Okay, and there we go. And that is our design. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be showing you guys is the lid. So let's go over here to our templates, and I'm going to double click. Okay, so here is our Claydoh lid template, and it is pretty much the exact same thing. Okay, so let's go over to our, so I like to actually work between two designs instead of dragging and finding where all my clip arts are. If I'm using the same design that was in my wrapper on my lid, then all I would do is just I would go into that folder that I was working in, which is this one here, and I would just use all the items that are in there. So for instance, I want to use this clip art in my design, so in my lid design. So all I'm going to do is click onto her. Here it is here in your Windows panel, and I'm just going to click and drag you into there, and there she is there. All right, so I'm going to just zoom out slightly, and by zooming out, all you do is a shortboard key code is Control and the minus sign. All right, and it's going to drag that out. All right, so all I'm going to do now is hit Control T again, and I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm just going to bring that down so that it kind of is a little bit smaller in my lid, which is there. All right, and there she is there, and hit enter. Now, I am just going to be changing the color, the background color. All right, and all I'm going to do is click onto my ellipse tool, which is the circle, and I'm just going to double click onto that little square boxes inside that circle, and I'm just going to change the background of this to say that same pretty pink that we used before, which I think would have been maybe about that layer there. Okay, now you can obviously add anything you want to the background, but for this case we're just going to do that. And now one thing I like to do is, just to make this pop a little bit, is I'm going to go over here to this FX sign here. If you click onto that, it will bring up some more options. All I'm going to do is click onto outer glow. Now all this does is it pretty much gives your design around your image just like a slight bit of haze, like makes it look a little bit more whimsical. All right, now you will notice that you can kind of see the haze already, and I've got it set on white and it's normal, and if you click onto this opacity, it will obviously make it brighter or less and less as you go down. Now I like to just keep it slightly bit about there. Okay, around 25, and that's all I like to do. And then I'm just going to hit the OK button, and there is my design. Okay, so it kind of just makes it pop a little bit. Now if you're wanting to just add a few more colors to the background, I like to click onto my ellipse tool or ellipse layer, go over here. All right, and it will bring up obviously all the designs. Now even though it is a circle, the circle template is still, the ellipse tool is still underneath there, so even if you click on that, it will still bring up the settings for that. Okay, so all I'm going to do is click onto the stroke tool, and I'm wanting to change it to maybe like a pretty, let's go with this pretty bluey color. Okay, and hit OK. Now you kind of can't see it, so you make sure that the that is set on straight line, or you can have dot lines, whichever. And I'm just going to change this to make it slightly bit about there, and hit the move tool, select tool. So it's kind of just given a little bit of a border around it. Okay, now comes the fun part of seeing how your design would look in real life. Now this is where the mock-ups come in handy, because it gives your customer the idea of how it's going to look once they've assembled it themselves. All right, so that's what's great about mock-ups, and what's handy about mock-ups is mock-ups help sell your designs. All right, so let's go in there and let's find our mock-up, which is right here. Now if you've never used a mock-up, that's perfectly okay. Now all you're going to do is on the right hand side here, you will see where it says double click. That's all you're going to do, is just change the these gray areas into your design. Now before we can go ahead and do that, we need to go back into our designs, which are these ones here, and we need to group it all together, because if you can't just drag one layer at a time, you need to drag the whole template into your mock-up. So how do we do that? All we're going to do is go into a layers section. All right, Okay, so you keep going down until you find this section here, which is all about merging and flattening. And all we're going to do is we're going to flatten this image. And it's brought all of those layers over here on the right hand side in your Windows panel all together. It's grouped it all together. Now that we're going to click and we're going to drag that into our mock-up design. Now before we do that, let's just go over here into our lid, and we're going to do the same thing, but this is where it becomes a little bit different because we have a circle shape and we've got a transparent background. We can't flatten the image because it's going to change that transparent background into a white background. Okay, and we obviously don't want that. So all we're going to do is click merge visible, and all that's going to do is merge those layers together. Now, if you find that you don't have a transparent background, it's more than likely that your background layer has been selected. So just unselect that. For this, you need to obviously make sure that it is unselected because a square is not going to fit inside the round lid. Anyhow, okay, so there it is there. Now, let's go back over here to our mock-up, and I'm just going to click onto this part here, and there it is there. And all we're going to do is click over here, and we're going to double click, and it has brought up this square box. Now it might seem a bit weird, but bear with me. This is what we're going to be using as our wrap, and we're going to click and we're going to drag you into there. Now all I'm going to do is hit Control and the minus sign because I just wanted to zoom it out a bit, and I'm just going to hit Control Command T to transform, and all I'm going to do is hit the Shift key, and I'm just going to drag that up until it has filled out the entire box. Okay, and let's just move you out to about there. Oh, let's just drag you in, and I'm just going to move you, keep moving you until it kind of snaps into place like there. All right, so it snapped it into place from there, there, and there. That is our center. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit enter. Now all we need to do in this section is go File, Save. You're just going to hit save, not save as, just save, and click onto that. And then when we go into our mock-up, there is our design. How cool is that? Hey, all right, let's go over here to the lid section, which is this one here. And if you're not too sure which layer it is, just click onto that and it'll take you to that layer. And all we're going to do is double click onto this little box. All right, and there it is there. Now let's find our lid, which is this one here. And I've already merged all the layers together, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag you on top of there. Now it's obviously not it's not filling the whole box, so what do we need to do? Control T, and this time I don't need to actually use the Shift key. I'm kind of just going to drag that there, drag you there, drag you there, and drag you to there. Okay, and hitting enter, because don't forget I had that little border around it. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit, now you can either turn that one off if you want to or leave it on, it doesn't really matter. Hit File and hit Save. Now let's have a look at our design, and there it is, guys. Super easy to make a mock-up. Once you obviously have your mock-up design, your mock-up template is really easy to make. So how easy and quick is that to be able to show your customers what your Play-Doh wrappers are going to look once they've assembled it. Okay, and that is pretty much it on that. Now let's just close a few things. So this one you can close without saving it, and that one we can close. So your mock-up ones, you can pretty much delete those, not delete them, but just close them. Okay, so once you've obviously saved this, once you have done that, all I would do is let's group that together. So let's flatten that because we don't mind having the white background. But once again, make sure you have your watercolors and your watermarks on there, because having a white background is very easy to steal your design. Okay, so we're going to flatten that. You can obviously change that to, you don't even have to have a white background. And we're just going to go File and Save As. Okay, and then all you would do is save this as a PNG or as a JPEG, whichever one you want. But I'll just save mine as a JPEG just to show you changing that to whatever it is that you need to change it to, and then hitting save. So let's just, all right, I'm just whatever, hit save, and then it'll always pop up a box like this, and all you do is make sure that it says large file and hit OK. Alrighty, that's it. Now when you want to save this again to use for later use, I would go to your window, to your history panel, and go to your open, so right at the very beginning. All right, and click File, Save As, and make sure that you have saved it back as a PSD file. All right, and this is a mock-up, which is that one there. And then I would just hit save. But the main thing is make sure that you've saved it as a PSD file and it's ungrouped, okay? There's nothing there. So I always go back to my history and go to where I first started when it comes to my mock-ups, all right? And then hit yes. Okay, and just a little tip for you. So let's close that so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a look at the top here, it's got this little asterisk. That little asterisk just tells you that you haven't saved your work, all right? So once you've saved it, that asterisk will go away. So that's a little inside tip. These ones here, always make sure that you hit the previous action that you had. All right, now I will use my same template, so the same Play-Doh template, over and over and over again for all my different themes. Now if you go over here to, this is my template that I have been using. I have everything saved in a folder. All right, that way when I go to change it or do something, I would just click onto that folder and I can go over here and it'll bring up everything. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's go back into our design. All I would do is I would hit this little folder button, drag it all the way to the top, double click, change the name, click all of my layers that I've just used, not the background layer, just all my layers that I've used for that. And I would click and I would drag that into my folder. And then there is my design. Now I can ungroup, I can unselect that and start with my next design. And then when I save this, I save it obviously as a PSD file. See, it's brought that up there, PDF. You don't want a PDF, you want it as a PSD file. Okay, and then I would hit save. Now, that is it. Now, the same thing I would do with my lit layer. Okay, now with the, make sure that, because this is grouped together, that you unselect it. Okay, and then I would do the same thing. Hit folder, drag the folder to the top, label my folder, click, drag that in. You see how it's brought up that blue box? That way you know it's inside that folder, and now it's grouped inside that folder. There it is there. Okay, and then that's when I would go ahead and save that. But always make sure at the end of the day that you, if you're saving this template as a template to use again in the future, that you have ungrouped those layers. Can't tell you how many times I've done that where I've grouped the layers. All right, guys, so that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week for Photoshop Friday. All right, take care. Bye.